The forest is never truly silent. Not really. It breathes, it watches, and sometimes it screams. A scream not quite human, not quite animal, something in between. For centuries, across every corner of the earth, people have described towering, hair-covered giants and wolf-like humanoids stalking the wilderness. They go by many names: Sasquatch, Yeti, Dogman, Skinwalker, and Bigfoot. And yet, despite the distance and the centuries between them, the stories are eerily consistent. The same hulking silhouettes, the same primal roars, the same feeling that something is watching from just beyond the tree line. But what if these creatures are not simply undiscovered animals? What if they are something else? Something that doesn't follow the rules of our world at all? And why does every attempt to uncover the truth vanish into the dark? From the misty forests of the Pacific Northwest to the snow-blanketed slopes of the Himalayas, from Siberia's frozen tundra to the jungles of the Congo, stories of giant, upright, humanoid beings are everywhere. Native American nations like the Salish, Choctaw, and Lakota spoke of hairy men of the forest, not as beasts, but as ancient people, older than memory itself. Medieval Europeans feared the woodwoes. In Australia, they warned of the Yowie. In China, it was the Yeren. Different continents, different languages, yet all telling the same story. Beings that walk like us, but are not us. Even the Dogman, that eerie hybrid of man and wolf, isn't new. Ancient Egypt depicted Anubis, guardian of the dead, with the head of a jackal. Greek historians wrote of the cynocephali, tribes of dog-headed men. Medieval chronicles even described wolf-headed soldiers serving kings in battle. And the legends haven't stopped. In the US, Dogman encounters have surged in hotspots like Michigan, Kentucky's land between the lakes, and the now infamous Skinwalker Ranch, Utah. This isn't isolated folklore, it's a global phenomenon. The same archetypes appear in cultures that never met, separated by oceans and millennia. And yet, they all speak of the same thing. Something ancient, something alive, and something that still walks among us. Here's where things start to get really strange. Because once you start mapping out cryptid encounters, Bigfoot, Dogman, and the rest, something odd pops up. They overlap with UFO sightings far more often than chance should allow. Coincidence? Maybe. But the deeper you dig, the harder that word is to use. Witnesses have long reported glowing orbs, silent craft, and anomalous lights just minutes before or after cryptid encounters. Some even claim the creatures appear alongside these phenomena, or disappear into thin air as the lights fade. Take the 1973 Bigfoot UFO wave in Pennsylvania. From June through December, across Fayette, Westmoreland, and Beaver counties, over 200 UFO sightings and 50 Bigfoot encounters were documented. Stan Gordon and the Westmoreland County UFO Study Group investigated case after case, and what they found still defies explanation. On October 25, 1973, two farmers near Uniontown saw a glowing red orb descend into their field. From that light stepped two towering, 7 to 8 foot humanoids covered in hair. Deputies who arrived minutes later found the soil radioactive and magnetically disturbed. Gordon's team detected electromagnetic anomalies throughout the region, and witnesses reported light beams slashing through the forests just before sightings occurred. That's not biology. That's something else entirely. Even the FBI's declassified Bigfoot file from the 1970s hints at official attention. Publicly dismissed, yes, but its existence confirms that federal agencies were quietly investigating cryptids, sometimes linking them to what are now called UAPs. Whistleblowers claim these investigations considered the possibility of ultra-terrestrials, beings not from outer space, but from parallel dimensions. And Pennsylvania wasn't the only hotspot. In August 1978, The Caton family of Paris Township near Minerva, Ohio, stumbled into one of the strangest cryptid encounters ever recorded. It started when their grandchildren bolted inside, terrified, claiming they'd seen a monster lurking in a nearby gravel pit. Evelyn and Herbert Caton, joined by neighbors, went to investigate. What they saw was a 7-foot-tall, 300-pound creature covered in thick, matted hair that hid its face. Another night, strange noises from an old chicken coop drew their attention. As they approached, they saw 2 pairs of glowing yellow eyes. They brought their car around to shine some light at the chicken coop. 2 large cats darted away, and the creature itself stepped into view, as if guarding them. Shocked at what they saw, they kept their distance and alerted the officials. Moments before authorities arrived, both the beast and the cats vanished. No footprints, no hair, no trace. Just week-long nightmares and cold sweats to deal with. That's not all. 2 nights later, a bright, silent disc-shaped craft hovered near the tree line for 90 seconds, and then, like the creature, vanished without a sound. State investigators admitted they had no explanation. Wildlife officials couldn't classify the prints. The Catons never saw the creature again. But the legend never died. These strange overlaps haven't stopped. Then, in 1976, Whitehall, New York, police officers witness a Bigfoot-like creature and a glowing white sphere nearby. In 1995, British Columbia, loggers see a hairy biped step into a shaft of light and disappear. And not too long ago, in 2013, Utah, the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON, logs details of a triangular craft seen minutes before a Dogman encounter near Skinwalker Ranch. Different decades, different witnesses. Same pattern. Lights, distortion, and then the creature. It's enough to make you wonder, are we dealing with separate mysteries here, or one phenomenon wearing different masks? Well, at this point, we're beyond the realm of big animal in the woods. Because if these beings are flesh and blood, they're not behaving like anything we know. They vanish without a trace. They pass through barriers. And sometimes, they appear in places they shouldn't even be able to reach. So how do we explain something that breaks the rules of nature? Well, one theory says, they're not breaking the rules at all. They're playing by different ones. Welcome to Skinwalker Ranch, Utah's most infamous paranormal laboratory. And buckle up because this place is about to shake your soul. At this place, reality itself seems to glitch. Cattle mutilations, glowing portals, cryptids that step out of light-filled gateways and roam the property. Flying crafts that defy physics. Entities that peek through what can only be described as windows to somewhere else. It's all so bizarre that science fiction starts to feel like an understatement. Oh yeah, note to self, take off visiting Skinwalker Ranch from bucket list. Check. Government interest in this place wasn't just rumor. Programs like AAWSAP, the Advanced Aerospace Weapons System Applications Program, secretly studied cryptids and UAPs together, calling them interrelated phenomena. If that's true, then maybe the forest isn't where these beings live. Maybe it's just where they visit. Here are some theories that can possibly shed some light on the unexplained phenomena. Interdimensional hypothesis. This states that these beings step in and out of our space-time. That's why they appear and vanish at will, and why footprints stop abruptly, as if the creature simply blinked out of existence. Then, we have ultra-terrestrial theory. The belief that these aren't visitors from distant galaxies. They're native to Earth, but exist in adjacent layers of reality. Think of them as neighbors we rarely see, living just a fraction of a dimension away. And last, we have the Guardian hypothesis. This one I like the most. It states that these entities may be sentinels, watchers tasked with monitoring thresholds between realities. Eerily similar to the Book of Enoch detailing gods from the heavens who were called the Watchers, or shall we say, the fallen angels. Some researchers even draw these parallels from these ancient stories of fallen angels and watchers of the gates. Simply echoes of the same idea, just told in different languages. Then there's the phenomenon researchers simply call vanishing tracks, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Since the 1960s, hundreds of documented cases describe massive footprints that suddenly stop in snow, sand, or mud. No leap, no climb, just gone. In 1967, investigators in Bluff Creek, California documented an 800-pound biped's prints that stopped midstream, as if the creature had been beamed out of existence. Scotty, is that you? In 2014, a British Columbia hunter tracked a Dogman-like creature for over a mile until the print ended abruptly in a clearing surrounded by a circular depression and magnetic anomalies. If these beings are stepping between worlds, maybe we're tracking them right up to the edge of ours and then stopping where theirs begins. Because if they can come and go at will, we're not the hunters anymore. We're the ones being studied. On a side note, what happens when law enforcement has to respond to these events? Simple. The deeper you look, the less you find. Reports vanish, witness statements get sealed, and files redacted into oblivion if they show up at all. Park rangers and police officers have spoken, anonymously of course, about being visited by federal agents who politely, or not so politely, advise them to keep quiet. FOIA requests tied to cryptid incidents often come back empty, or so heavily censored they're basically black rectangles on paper. And according to several former military personnel, retrieval operations do happen after certain encounters, implying these creatures are more than just a curiosity. They're a national security concern. The louder the denial, the deeper the cover-up. So maybe the government knows these beings exist, but hides the truth to avoid chaos. Maybe they're working with them. Or maybe, and this might be the most unsettling idea of all, they're still trying to figure it out themselves. Possibly. But if it's all fake, here's a question. Why does the government keep studying it? Why do whistleblowers risk careers to talk about it? And why does the evidence time and time again simply disappear? Well, here's one example we can confirm. The FBI did conduct forensic analysis. In response to physical samples submitted by civilians, hair and tissue allegedly from Bigfoot. The results came back, dear origin, but that's not the point. The point is, the FBI ran the tests. They even opened a case file, number 63-12076, dated July 5th, 1977. For decades, this was unknown. It wasn't until a 2019 FOIA release that the public even learned the file existed, proof that, despite the official line, Bigfoot was of investigative interest. If this is all myth, why did the Bureau take it seriously enough to put it under a microscope? Good question. Maybe Fox Mulder wanted to have a look. Then there's Project Blue Book, the US government's official UFO investigation from 1952 to 1969. Most people think it was just about lights in the sky. But hidden in those declassified pages are hints of something far stranger. Encounters, not only with unidentified craft, but with living beings connected to them. In 1959, for example, a report from Montana describes a glowing object silently descending into a forest. Minutes later, witnesses saw towering humanoid figures moving between the trees, searching for something, or someone. The Air Force didn't file this under meteor or aircraft. They used a different term, anomalous biological entities. That's government speak for something alive, and not from here. Later, the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, partnered with Bigelow Aerospace Advanced Space Studies, BAASS, to dig deeper. FOIA documents show US government's interest wasn't limited to craft. It extended into cryptid entities and biological anomalies. They went as far as to inquire about Nepal's regulations and rules if a Yeti was captured during a mountain climbing expedition. That's interesting. But besides Nepal, they were interested in the home front as well, So, in their further quest for some answers, they went to a known location with a lot of buzz. You guessed it, Skinwalker Ranch. The same place where portals open, creatures appear and vanish, and reality itself seems to warp. Insiders like Luis Elizondo and Dr. Colm Kelleher have suggested that some of these findings remain deeply buried, sealed away, possibly because they involve biological evidence, interdimensional data, or even ongoing classified operations. And when witnesses do come forward, a darker pattern emerges. In 1987, several Michigan police officers reported a bipedal, wolf-like creature, what locals now call the Michigan Dogman. But after filing their reports, 2 of those officers were visited by alleged federal agents and strongly advised to stop talking. Today, no official record exists. In 1992, hunters near Mount St. Helens photographed a massive ape-like figure. Within 48 hours, men in unmarked vehicles arrived, confiscated the camera and film, and claimed to be with the US Forest Service. Yet no record of that visit has ever surfaced. Again and again, the story repeats. Physical evidence disappears. Witnesses recant under pressure. Files evaporate from archives. And yet, the sightings never stop. The deeper you dig, the clearer it becomes. These aren't just campfire stories about monsters in the woods. They're fragments of a classified puzzle. Governments, scientists, and shadow agencies have quietly chased for decades. The real question isn't if these entities exist. It's why they're here, and what they might be guarding. So, what if Bigfoot, Dogman, and the rest aren't relics of a prehistoric past? What if there's something far more profound, emissaries from a hidden order of reality? Across ancient mythologies, we find a recurring pattern: guardians at the threshold, beings who stand watch where the known world touches the unknown. They appear when boundaries thin, and vanish when the veil thickens again. What if these so-called cryptids are not wandering survivors, but sentinels, scouts placed at the seams of worlds, stationed where dimensions intersect? Think about it. Their uncanny intelligence, their ability to appear and vanish without a trace, their habit of showing up just after strange lights rip through the sky. These aren't behaviors of a species struggling to survive. They're the actions of agents following a directive. And maybe, just maybe, that directive isn't coming from this side of reality at all. If UFOs are the vehicles that cross between dimensions, then these beings could be the biological counterparts, the ones who move quietly on the ground, while the craft moves silently above. The watchers, the gatekeepers, the ones who make sure whatever is happening stays beyond our understanding, until we're ready to understand it. Whether they're watchers, guardians, or echoes of a forgotten order. One thing is becoming impossible to deny. Their secrecy is not accidental. They remain hidden not because we can't find them, but because maybe, just maybe, we're not meant to. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Support the channel by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. Until the next one, remember, as always, stay curious.